Yes, and we come to the last but not the least speaker, the chief instructor of this program, Dr. Subhash Prasad. Dr. Subhash doesn't need an introduction. He has held almost all the posts in the state society except for the president. He's a bit too young for that. And right now, he is the managing committee member in AIOS from Bihar. Welcome, Dr. Subhash. He's a prolific refractive cataract surgeon. He also is a VR surgeon, but not because of the workload. He has separate VR surgeons working for him. Welcome, Subhash.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan sir. So I would be talking on another important conditions, that is the cataract surgery in patients who have undergone VR procedures. We all know that it is one of the important complications. So you can say later on onset problems arising out of vitreous surgery. And nowadays, even the simple retinal detachment surgeries are being performed by the vitreous surgery. So the incidence of cataract surgery is actually increasing. And actually, patients who were earlier used to be just left because of the prognosis now are being taken up even the early stages. So more and more number of vitrectomy are being performed. So the more chances of patients coming with the cataract. So what are the risk factors? The patient who are old,
Subhash sir,
there
please
Please
don't
share your
deprive
screen,
us
sir.
of your
is it
slides.
is it
Please don't
not?
deprive us of your
No, no, no.
slides.
It is not being shared. Okay,
Please
okay.
share screen.
I thought it's going. Not sure. I thought it was okay, okay.
Now it's coming. Please go to
Coming, okay.
full screen, sir.
Yeah, I'm going. Is it visible now? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Please go
yeah.
ahead.
So what are the patients who are more likely to develop? Patients who are old, if there is any intraoperative lens touch, or patient who have been injected silicone oil, or use of intraocular gas tamponade, post-vitrectomy uveitis, and many patients receive steroid for longer periods. So they generally develop more and more rapidly cataract. If the patient is a children or the younger age group, generally they develop posterior subcapsular cataract, but adults, they do end up with nuclear cataract more and more. So if you find that some of the patient, if any patient who has undergone surgery and rapidly developed cataract, then most likely has been lens touch during the surgery. So these patients are more likely to develop problem during cataract surgery also. So what are the challenges when we are planning to do cataract surgery in these patients? Most often the conjunctiva and episcleral is scarred, so making a scleral tunnel won't be a very good option here. These patients may have low endothelial cell count because of the silicone oil injection, which may sometimes come into the anterior chamber. There will always be deep anterior chamber if there is no vitreous support. Even with the patient with silicone oil, there is a deep anterior chamber, and you can find silicone oil bubbles in the anterior chamber also. Compromised zonule is another problem, particularly if the patient has undergone VR retinal detachment surgery with vitreous base excision, then there are more chances that the patient will have some compromised zonules. These patients do develop a small pupil during surgery, they don't dilate much, and many of the patients, they come with very hard cataract. And the chances of posterior capsular plaque is also high because of the silicone oil injection. It causes some changes in the actually healing and healing process or metaplasia of the posterior capsule and leads to posterior capsule plaque. And there can be anterior capsular fibrosis also. If there is scleral buckling also, the scleral rigidity goes down further. So there can be silicone oil in the vitreous cavity, which is again a problem not only for surgery but for biometry also. And these patients generally have reduced visual potential. So not only the surgery but counseling before the surgery and after on giving him more chair time is also very important. So several preoperative, intraoperative, and postoperative precautions or care has to be taken. That is more than the normal cataract surgery. So detailed patient history has to be taken, whether the patient has undergone retinal detachment surgery, just macular hole surgery. That gives some clue that probably vitreous base has been disturbed. Also, this jonular dialysis is going to be more or not. Preoperative examination has to be carefully done in slit lamp and indirect ophthalmoscopy. In slit lamp, just carefully look at the posterior capsule or any jonular dehiscence. Sometimes you take up the patient and you find jonular dehiscence on the table because it doesn't dilate too much. So you should be ready for any surprises also. And in advanced cataract, you do B scan, but again, B scan is a problem here. If you have silicone oil, the B scan doesn't tell very too correctly many times. The biometry is important issue when there is silicone oil in situ. But if there is no silicone oil, you can go ahead with the usual or normal biometry. If there is silicone oil with ultrasound, it is always going to give false increase in axial length, and because of that, you will have IOL power, IOL which is lesser than what is required. So you will have hyperopic surprise after the surgery. So it's always better to do optical biometry in these patients. If you are not very much sure about the IOL power, if the ultrasound, you can just multiply the axial length of the eye with 0.71. That will give roughly, that will give actual or nearly true assessment of the axial length. If there is phaco without silicone oil, then if you are doing ultrasound and you don't have biometry, then you can implant a lens where phaco without silicone removal. If you are going to keep the silicone oil there in the eye without removing it during the surgery, then you can implant a lens where you have to give little higher power so that it prevents any myopic shift. But the newer generation swept source machines has actually changed the way the biometry is calculated. Even in the silicone oil filled eye, this patient has undergone the pars plana vitrectomy for retinal detachment surgery and has silicone oil inside. And you can see that there is silicone oil mode in the IOLMaster 700, which is giving power of 20 diopter. And post-operatively, when the patient was implanted this lens of 20 diopter, there was just minus 0.25 diopter of the spherical surprise. So it is nothing. So these optical biometer are giving very good results. What are the special problems during anesthesia, during the surgery? Anesthesia, if you think that the surgery is going to last a little longer, you have to give peribulbar injection. Otherwise, topical is good enough. But sometimes because there is stretching of the iris lens diaphragm, there will be pain. So intracameral lignocaine is suggested. Surgery in this patient required extra care in form of maintaining the anterior chamber, because you will always have very deep anterior chamber. So always have to keep the bottle height very low, or you can use active fluidics. There is hypotony, so you have to use copious OBD. Careful incision has to be made. You don't end up with too lengthy incision. Otherwise, there will be overlooking. And if possible, have a VR surgeon. If possible, you can. So capsular axis is again a problem. Sometimes if you have anterior capsular fibrosis, and many times you won't get very good reflex. So always better to use dye in these patients. And capsular axis should not be less than 5 millimeter, because these patients generally develop capsular phimosis very soon. And you need to look into the posterior segment again and again in these patients. So try to have at least 5 millimeter of the capsular axis, and hydrodissection should be very much gentle. Phaco is always preferable over SICS ECC, because expressing the nucleus out from the hypotonic eye is always very difficult. Always use a technique which requires fewer manipulation, like stop and chop or chop. Rule of thumb is that avoid applying excessive force during the phacoemulsification, because the jonules are weak. So excessive fluctuation, keep the chamber height, keep the bottle height low, so that you don't have too much deep anterior chamber. There is always chance of reverse pupillary block and infusion deviation syndrome also. Cortical aspiration preferably should be done bimanually, just to maintain the anterior chamber and to remove each bit of it. IOL placement should be again gentle. Excessive rotation should be avoided, and it's always better to use hydrophobic or hydrophilic acrylic lens or PMMA lens. A large optic lens should be chosen, because you need to see these patients in the retina again and again. Lenses with 360 square edge to prevent PCO is important. No plate haptic IOL or no silicone IOL should be used. This is a small video clip of the patient who have silicone oil in situ and is planning for surgery. You can see the silicone oil in the anterior chamber. That signifies that probably this patient has some jonular dehiscence also. So here I'm going for the phaco with the silicone oil removal in the same sitting. The silicone oil removal will be done by the vitreoretinal surgeon. I am doing the cataract part. I am trying to be as gentle as possible. And for any trained phaco surgeon, it's not a problem. But only thing is that you should maintain the anterior chamber, take due precautions. Even with the basic machines, you can handle these situations. But you have to be very gentle and you have to be very patient, so that you don't end up with any problem. Otherwise, there are high chances that it can create some journal dehiscence or posterior capsule rupture. So one should avoid that. You can see that I'm maintaining an intraocular pressure of 40. Generally, I do at 50, 55, but here with 40 millimeters, since silicone oil is behind, so 40 millimeter pressure is enough. And putting the single piece lens in the back, and the silicone oil removal part will be taken up same sitting by my colleague. So coming to the another video where there is no silicone iron, patient has been operated for, has undergone vitreous surgery. Here you won't have any support of silicone oil. So there are more chances that AC will depend further and further. So here you need to keep the anterior chamber depth low by decreasing the bottle height, keeping everything in the using the low parameter. And if you have active fluidics, I'm just keeping that intraocular pressure of 20. You can see here, just keeping pressure of 20. And with 20 millimeter intraocular pressure, I'm able to handle this cataract. I'm able to chop it, have a good hold of the nucleus, then making it to multiple small pieces and taking it by piece and piece and without causing any fluctuation in the red chamber. So that are the advantages of using active fluidics. Coming to another video, small clip. Here, there is pre-existing PCD because this patient complained that after surgery he decreased his vision very fast. So it gave me clue that he has some posterior capsule touch during the surgery, and patient is going to end up in the problem. So here I keeping finger crossed. I'm not doing hydrodissection. I'm just mechanically separating the part of the nucleus from the anterior capsule and doing the surgery very slowly, but at the end there will be a small piece which will be going into the vitreous cavity. Since there is no vitreous, you can see that the nucleus has fallen. You will see that the nucleus is falling so fast. And this part was managed by my vitreoretinal colleague. So you can see that the nucleus is going down and down. So these are the problems which one has to be prepared for. Post-operatively care, there is more chances of inflammation, more chances of posterior synechia, secondary glaucoma. So one has to do very meticulous post-operative care also. You can see the IOL capture. The patient was put to the prone position because of some air was injected after removing the silicone oil. You can see that some silicone oil has come even after silicone removal. There may be some bit of silicone oil there in the anterior chamber. So just to conclude, you have to be extra cautious in handling these patients. Plan your surgery in advance. You should have a proper biometry if there is silicone oil in the C2. You should have standby gadgets like sulcus IOL, CTR, hooks and rings, and you have to use good viscoelastic. Slow motion phaco has to be adopted, never be in a hurry. And these patients require regular follow-up and long-term follow-up. So thank you very much. Any comment?
Ask one question, Subhash sir.
Those
surgeons who are not having the best of phacoemulsification system with active fluidics, what parameters changes would you suggest for doing phacoemulsification in a vitrectomized eye with shallow anterior chamber like this one?
See, if you are keeping bottle height of around 100 centimeter, then reduce it to 70 or something like that, or you have to actually titrate, reduce it to that, keep the flow rate at the lowest possible and the vacuum also low. This will increase your surgical time, but you will have a better chamber stability. Actually, one has to judge the moment you go inside the anterior chamber with the irrigation on, you see how much the thing is going down and how much the lens iris diaphragm is getting pushed below. If it is with that bottle head also happening, then you have to look two things. Either your incision is very tight or your bottle height is very high. So incision should also be very good, that it is not compressing the irrigation also. At the same time, bottle height, you have to take into account two parts also. And making the incision, side point incision, one important tip is that while I am doing surgery, I make the side port incision very small, just enough to negotiate the chopper and don't allow too much of the fluid to come out. Otherwise, again, there is problem of chamber stability, and you can later on increase the incision side once you are using the bimanual irrigation aspiration. So while doing the phaco, just make a small side put incision. That is another important tip here, and use copious amount of visco in between.
So during the irrigation and aspiration of cortex, as there is vitreous is not there posteriorly. So what precaution one should take while doing irrigation and aspiration of cortex?
Again, you have to be little gentle and pull the cortex in the center before you aspirate, and always keep the port of the aspiration facing towards you. Never go behind, because suddenly the main problem is the too much fluctuation in the anterior chamber. Suddenly, if there is vacuum, you are pulling the cortex and there is a break in the vacuum, the capsule will try to come up. So in that situation, one has to be very much careful. Everything, the essence is that you go slow and slow.